Hi, welcome to the Russ Events Courtside Podcast. I'm your host, Vince. Before we go into the video, please hit that like and subscribe button down below if you enjoy our videos. Let's get right into it. Yes. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Russ Events Courtside Podcast. I am your host, Vince, here to discuss today's matchup between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Indiana Pacers. In case you guys didn't get a chance to tune into today's game, it was very interesting to start, but not as interesting towards the end. What we're gonna do is we're gonna dive half by half and then go right into what we were able to analyze based off of how the game was going and kind of see what was the determining factors that led to the Cavaliers winning today's game 126 to 104. Let's get right into it. Alrighty, so we got the first half. Now, in terms of the first half, what we were able to see to start this game, the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to get on a really hot start. They started the game out 13 to nothing before the Pacers were even able to start their first bucket of the first quarter to start the game. Outside of that, the Pacers did do a good job to at least finish that first quarter, going on a run of their own to match the run that the Cavaliers went on, being able to end that first quarter 32 to 32. In the meantime, what was going on in the first quarter, Darius Garland, DeAndre Hunter, as well as Evan Mobley. Today was a game where they were able to return from injury. Some of them did make a presence early on, while others not so much. In this case, for the first quarter, Darius Garland did not really get off to a good start. Unfortunately, he was able to get into foul trouble pretty early on into the game. About 2.5 minutes left of the first quarter, he ended up getting two fouls, leaving him into the bench, being able to not really get himself back into a rhythm after missing the last two games in Cleveland. Outside of that, in terms of the first quarter, what we did notice, at least, what helped the Pacers get back into this game was Miles Turner. Miles Turner was able to finish out the first half with 12 points and defensively was a monster. He had one steal, two blocks, and some very good perimeter defense, as well as timely rim protector defense as well, to stop the Cavaliers from just having whatever they want, whenever they wanted, in certain durations of that first quarter. Outside of that, we go into the second quarter. Second quarter was really the tale of the game. Cleveland ended up going on a 26 to 4 run to end the second quarter going into halftime. During that, they dominated the boards. They ended up finishing the first half 35 to 15 on the rebounding stats and also had 13 rebounds compared to 2 rebounds in that first half. During that time as well, you could also see Donovan Mitchell really asserting himself. The entire series, Donovan has been going off, and you could tell that he was not slowing down this game at all. The biggest thing that I kind of noticed too, that I believe Kenny Atkinson kind of was holding on for a situation like this. If you paid attention to, I would say, half of the second quarter, he ended up putting them on a 3-2 zone. So what he did was he had his players go in a 3-2 zone, and during this stretch, the Pacers went 3 for 11. Not efficient scoring at all. They looked very lackadaisical and some unfortunate turnovers that led to a lot of good fast break looks, as well as just empty calorie buckets. Because when they did actually get the ball into the paint, that perimeter and that rim protection that I was talking about, specifically from Mobley, as well as um, Jared Allen in this case, they weren't getting any good looks. So, in terms of that, first half, really not much to go off of outside of the Cavaliers. They did go again on that 26 to 4 run. Another big stat to throw out there is basically the paint points was lopsided. The Cavaliers went 32 to 16 in the paint for that first half. Not going to get the job done. We're going to go into the second quarter here now. In terms of the Pacers did attempt a couple of times to come back in the third, but again, they didn't learn the lesson from the first half. They had a lot of unfortunate, timely, sloppy turnovers and a lot of fouls. It got very physical, and I think that the physicality got the best of them, primarily even the coach. Rick Carlisle did end up picking up a technical, and then later on in the second half, before the game ended, there was some technicals again on some of the other players, Benedict, Matherin, Nimhart. It just was one of those games where again, just the players just didn't really do their job. And then at the end of the day, again, we talk about Donovan Mitchell going into this matchup. Although they were down 0-2, it wasn't Donovan's fault. Donovan actually has done his part as best as he can, considering the injuries that were taking place these last two games. And if we really remember, game one and game two, the Cavs actually had a pretty good established lead, but they just gave it up at the end. Very similar to what we were seeing in the matchup against the Knicks and the Celtics. The was the same thing that was happening with the Pacers in this case. Now in game three on the road, the Cavs were able to obviously respond a lot better behind Donovan Mitchell's 43 points, which led the team in scoring. So, what we're going to do here is I'm going to actually go ahead and pull up the stat sheet. We're going to take a look and see overall really how this game went because a lot of this you can kind of see out the gate. And we're actually going to go ahead and start this off with the Pacers side. Now, if you look at the box score here, very lopsided between the bench and the starters. Andrew, for the most part in the playoffs, has actually showed up pretty well. He's done a really good job from his scoring to his defensive presence, at least as best as he can, not being known as a defensive player. He was a minus 29. Not good enough. 7 points, just not going to be good, especially as a starting shooting guard. Just didn't do a good job. And really, outside of Miles Turner and Benedict Mathurin, which again is on the bench, nobody else really showed up in that first half. That's why they ended up only scoring 13 points compared to the Cavaliers' 34 points. That second quarter arguably was the tell of the remainder of the game because once the Cavaliers had that lead, starting with that second quarter, they just never looked back. At that point, all they really needed to do was simply just hold their own. And for every run that the Pacers were going to go on, they needed to go on a run of their own. But they did get good contribution from Benedict Mathurin, like I said, 23 points. But again, not really much else you're getting from him outside of the scoring. He only had one rebound, one steal, two turnovers, and four fouls. But again, just not really much. And then as far as the rest of your bench, you're not really getting much production either. But then when we look at the Cavaliers, like I said, top heavy starters. Okay, led by Donovan Mitchell. He had himself 43 points, was a plus 35, which is the second best on the team behind Jared Allen, who was a plus 38. There were times and moments where, again, their paint players really, really dominated and made an emphasis in this game. You got Jared Allen coming up with 12 boards. You got Evan Mobley coming up with 13 boards, dishing in 18 points. But if you look at the defensive stat sheet, that's really the tell of the story for Evan Mobley. He had 3 steals, 3 blocks, and a number of deflections, as well as contested shots around the rim. He made it a present that because he didn't play in game two, with this game three, he wanted to make it very clear why he won the Defensive Player of the Year award. Now, well, another thing I want to bring up here, just to kind of tell the whole story here, is we're going to go into the team stats. If we look at the team stats here, as you can see, those reboundings really made a difference. You got the Cavaliers taking over 100 shots, making 42 of them at 42%. And although that their percentage was a lot less than the Pacers only took 80 shots. That's 20 less shot attempts that you guys have in order to get yourself really established in this game. And then we look at the 3 point as well. You got 14 threes made compared to 9 threes made. The percentages, not the best shooting percentage night for the Cavs. We know that they can do better, but the fact that they did make 14 threes compared to the nine, that's about a 15-point difference right there. Okay. And then free throws was pretty dead even. Free throw percentage dead even as well. Rebounding, they ended the game 56 to 37. Offensive rebound is a joke. 18 rebounds compared to 4 just on the offensive rebounds alone. Okay. It's just not good enough. I'm actually surprised to see this stat. However, the turnovers were dead even. The reason why I say that is if you were noticing in that second half, the Pacers, they had so many sloppy passes, so many easable stealing passes, especially from Tyrese, that was just kind of like scratching your head. Why are you throwing that ball? Like it just didn't make any sense. But again, you're not going to get the job done, especially when your starters are not giving you the production that you expect, especially the production that we were used to seeing, at least on the road in Cleveland. They kind of started the game very slow. They didn't really seem to be completely in it, and because of that, you end up getting the outcome that you got. Outside of that, it's not really your night when unfortunately you got your boy James Johnson coming out. Now I love James Johnson, Please don't fight me if you ever happen to see this video. But when was the last time we remember James Johnson actually playing in the game? When was the last time we remember James Johnson playing in the playoffs? I think that the reason why Rick Carlisle inserted James Johnson in the game halfway of the fourth quarter when the game was already over at this point was to try to prove a point. I think that Rick realized something that the players didn't realize on the Pacer side, and that was that they were getting punked. They were getting dominated, they were getting out physical, the defense, all that stuff. So by inserting James Johnson, what you're trying to do by making that move is to establish yourself or at least establish some level of physicality, especially knowing that James Johnson is like probably one of the one guys in the league you don't want problems with. So I think it was one of those chess moves that he did to try to see not only if the team would recognize it, but also to try to get some momentum going into game four. Obviously, you can chalk this one up. You lost by 22 points. You're not going to win every game, especially in the second round. You hope to get a sweep, but the likelihood of that happening is not going to happen. So, this is definitely a game that the Cavaliers definitely needed. It was for sure, without a doubt, a must win situation for them. You can't go down 3-0, especially on the road after losing two home games in Cleveland. They did what they needed to do to get this win. The one thing I am kind of curious about as we looked again at the stat sheet, Tyrese Halliburton, man. What the Halliburton was going on, man? This was your opportunity. You went up 2-0, okay? Coming back to Indiana, you had an opportunity to really assert yourself and really prove a point of how good you are. Already you've had a great playoff performance and arguably you've had a great regular season performance, especially in the clutch. This was not that kind of showing. I don't want to give you a pass per se because the discrepancy in this game was just so bad, man. It would be one thing if you had a shootout or if you had really tried to show, hey, I'm here, I'm still trying to assert myself. But you took 8 attempts and made two shots. You took 1 3, you have 4 points, 5 assists, zero rebounds. Last time I checked, you're about a 6'6", 6'7" point guard. You mean to tell me you can't go up there and get at least one rebound? I mean, I know you're not the biggest, but you couldn't even just get one rebound. And then on top of that, you had 3 turnovers. One of the things that makes you such a great point guard in this league is your ability to take care of the ball and to be able to find the open man and get that momentum for your team. Very similar to I think what was going on in other games where the star player, I'll give you an example, the Timberwolves, right? The first game, when your star player doesn't really show up, especially to start the game, what tends to happen? The rest of the cast follow. In this case, Halliburton did not start the game off well at all. He was very piss poor, and you got to wonder what the heck happened. I don't know if it was a case where they just came back to Indy, and because they were already up 2-0, he kind of just got a little bit too relaxed. I don't know if it was the schemes. Obviously, in the playoffs, everything is a game of adjustments. And in those adjustments, maybe the key factor was clearly we need to stop Halliburton. But even if that's the case, you got to find ways to overcome that. Look at Donovan. Donovan has literally been the Cavaliers' best player and the Cavaliers' most dominant player. Does that stop him at all from going out there and at least giving it not just the best effort he can every game, but also asserting himself offensively? Absolutely no. So to me, I'm having a hard time understanding why Tyrese struggled in this game. Um, and I'm also having a hard time understanding why, as soon as there were certain adjustments being made early on in the game, why they didn't adjust during the game. You shouldn't have to wait to take a big loss like this in order to finally make adjustments. This is one of those situations where you need to be able to make in-game adjustments. And we know Rick Carlisle is capable of doing that to an extent, but this could also be one of the reasons why the Pacers haven't gone as far as they would like to because you need to have competent coaching in those moments. Again, Carlisle got a technical and a pivotal moment where, again, the moment was kind of swaying one moment in their favor, the next moment it was swaying back to Cleveland. And, I know that he was trying to get his guys back into the game and get that momentum to stop, but the only way you're really going to get them in the game is to make the proper adjustments in the game. It shouldn't have to wait till the end. So, Halliburton, man, you need to step up. You want us to put some respect on your name. On this show, we've done that. We've talked about how you're not overrated. We've seen you star out. We've seen you really come out big when it matters the most. This was not it. So let's hope that game 4 is a lot different of an outcome, because if it's not, I'm gonna tell you right now, man, Pacers, if you guys end up getting tied 2-2 going back to Cleveland, you're gonna be in trouble. Let's not forget, this is the Cavaliers. They've all year been great. They've been the number 1 seed pretty much since the beginning, okay? Very similar to the Thunder. And although they dropped those 2 games, one could argue, like, again, the Celtics, it was a game where really they dominated until late in the 4th quarter, where they just dropped the ball. So in this case, it's really gonna tell us a lot about this Pacers team, as well as this Pacers team in this playoffs, because we've seen them be able to make a deep run in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and I personally thought, "Hey, you know what? They're gonna make it again this year." I still believe in them. I did say Pacers in 6. This is 1, right? In order for it to be Pacers in 6, the Cavaliers mean they're gonna have to win at least 2 games. 1 is done. We don't know when the second one might happen. Let's hope it's not at least tomorrow, or beg my pardon, game 4, okay? But outside of that, that's going to be it for today's episode. What did you think? What did you gather in terms of the analysis? Was there anything that I didn't see in terms of this game that maybe you caught? Or what adjustments did you hope to see the Pacers make during the game compared to what the Cavs made in these last 2 losses that they made? Also, what is the outcome that you think is going to happen? Do you see Pacers winning in 6? Or do you think that with a win like this and with the Cavaliers players coming back from their health issues and concerns, do you think that this is a situation where the Cavaliers are really going to take dominance and be able to come back in the series and win in 4 or 5, maybe even 6? If you enjoyed this video, please hit a like down below. Comment your thoughts, opinions as well. And of course, subscribe if you're not already. Turn your notifications on if you are not already, to keep up with all episodes coming out. Some we are going to do live and some we're going to do regular videos. But until next time, you guys stay.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Russ and Vince Courtside Podcast, where we bring you the hottest NBA moments, discussions, and everything in between. If you like today's show, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a Courtside Podcast again.